Have you ever wondered what happens to us after we die? Is there an afterlife, or is death simply the end of our existence? While many of us may never know for sure, there are some who believe that death is not the final frontier but rather a doorway to a new beginning. In fact, some believe that death is merely a trap designed to wipe the memory of our past lives and recycle our souls back into another body, keeping us trapped. This theory of reincarnation has been around for centuries, but what evidence is there to support it? In this exploration of the supernatural, we'll delve into the idea that the tunnel of light that appears when we die is not a passage to a better place, but rather a mechanism to keep us locked in a perpetual cycle of life and death. So buckle up and get ready to explore the evidence that suggests reincarnation is not just a myth, but a reality. It is often claimed that by entering this tunnel of light, which appears when we die, is a trap designed to wipe the memory of our last incarnation and recycle our souls into another body, thus keeping us in an endless loop. This is simply because our memories are being erased and purposely wiped after each lifetime. Many of us live under the illusion that we're currently living out our first life on this planet. This is incorrect. Therefore, the tunnel of light that appears when we transition to the afterlife is actually a trap, intended to erase our memories of past incarnations and recycle our souls into new bodies, thus keeping us trapped in an infinite cycle on Earth. Due to this memory erasing, the vast majority of people walking the earth have total amnesia and don't remember anything about their past existences or the periods in between their lives. However, many believe they are experiencing their first life on this planet and have come here to learn, but in reality, the memories of everything they learn get wiped with each reincarnation, rendering the learning process futile. You see, Earth is essentially a disguised prison planet, marketed as a cosmic school to trick souls into coming and staying here. The Matrix is designed to drain our energy, wipe our memories, and keep us trapped in this repeating cycle. Although some who have undergone near-death experiences report being accompanied by a benevolent angel or being, who then shows them their life's review, this review is meant to make us feel guilty, ashamed, or remorseful about our past mistakes so that we are manipulated and influenced into wanting to compensate for them. However, since making mistakes is an inevitable part of being human, this emotional deception and manipulation scam will never end if we fall for it. In the form of man they amongst us, but only to sight were they as our men. Serpent-headed when the glamour was lifted but appearing to man as men among men. Crept they into the councils, taking forms that were like unto men. Yet, beware, the serpent still liveth, in a place that is open at times to the world. Unseen, they walk among thee, in places where the rites have been said. The reptilians and their agenda operating in the astral, spiritual realm. All throughout history, the reptilians have been mentioned in the literature of various ancient cultures worldwide. For instance, from the Naga described in Jainism and Hinduism to the Quetzalcoatl worshipped by the Aztecs, the reptilians have made their presence known in the literature of various ancient cultures worldwide. As we delve into the mysteries of ancient cultures, we find that there are recurring mentions of a certain species that has been present on Earth for millennia. The reptilians. Known by different names in different parts of the world, these beings have been a topic of fascination, conspiracy, and controversy for years. Who are these creatures? Why are they here, and what is their agenda? Join us as we explore the world of the reptilians and discover the secrets that have been hidden in plain sight for centuries. According to the beliefs of Aboriginal mythology, the Dreamtime was when the rainbow serpent played a crucial role in shaping the Australian landscape. and holds significance as both an immortal being and a creator god. This popular image in the Dreamtime is therefore mainly conveyed throughout art and storytelling, also in traditional song and dance performed by Aboriginal people of Australia. Similarly, the Hopi Indians referred to a race of reptoid-like beings they called the Shedi or Snake Brothers. Chinese, Korean, and Japanese legends also depict a reptilian race known as the Kappa, while African shamans speak of the Chitori, a reptilian species that controls the earth. And moreover, the Gnostics describe parasitic entities, called archons, who not only use humans as an energetic food source but also prevent our souls from leaving the material realm after death. The reptilians are parasitic entities that have manipulated humanity for centuries and set up a soul trap around the planet using advanced technology. The energy grid around the planet projects a tunnel of light upon the death of the physical body, which lures the soul into it. Many people who have had near-death experiences report seeing this tunnel of light. The soul may believe that the tunnel will take it to heaven or a higher plane of existence, depending on its level of awareness. However, upon entering the tunnel, the soul's memory is wiped, and it is reincarnated into another body on Earth. The reptilians see themselves as gods and humanity as their enslaved cattle. The reptilians want to keep us here because they need to feed off our low-frequency emotions such as fear, pain, grief, anger, jealousy, rage, anxiety, and lust. These emotions provide low vibrational energy, which the reptilians require to survive. Therefore, they have been keeping us trapped in an endless cycle of reincarnation for thousands of years. Most people living on Earth today have no recollection of their past lives since their memories are wiped before every reincarnation. Hence, they believe they are on this planet for the first time with a purpose or mission given to them by God. Our consciousness interacts with another dimension. Our physical sensors only show us a three-dimensional universe. What exists in the higher dimensions are entities we cannot touch with our physical sensors, says Bernard Carr, a professor of mathematics and astronomy who studied under Stephen Hawking and earned his doctorate at Cambridge. When our physical bodies die or when we have an out-of-body experience, our soul goes into the astral, spiritual realm, where we can still observe what's happening on Earth, but we can no longer interact with physical matter. These parasitic entities exist mainly, but not exclusively, in the astral plane. It's crucial that we become aware of the fact that these entities, who are masters of deceit, play God in order to trick us into accepting reincarnation and thus having our memories wiped, convincing us that it's in our best interest to do so. Inquire no further, as you may wonder how entities can manipulate and deceive us in the astral/spirit realm. The laws of physics that govern the physical world no longer apply when we're out of our bodies, allowing us to do things that would be impossible otherwise. One of which is the ability to change the shape of our astral body or spirit into any form we desire, simply by using our willpower. Our consciousness can manifest our reality in an instant in the astral plane, enabling us to fly, teleport, and even travel to higher vibratory realms. However, this ability also makes it possible for malevolent entities to present themselves as something or someone else, even as God or our loved ones who have passed away, to deceive and manipulate us. Thus, it is essential to be aware of their tactics and to discern the true nature of the entities we encounter in the astral realm. They do this because they know you'll put your trust in these religious figures or in the familiar faces, and once they gain that trust, they can easily manipulate you into doing things that are not in your best interests at all. They masquerade as beings of light that emanate a fake sensation of love and peace to make you think they're the good guys who are there to guide you and give you your next mission to fulfill. This is also mentioned in the Bible, and no wonder, for Satan himself masquerades as an angel of light, 2 Corinthians 11 verse 14. Have you ever felt like something beyond your control was causing your anxiety and depression? Have you ever wondered if there are unseen forces at work in your life that are affecting your mental health? While many of us are quick to blame external circumstances for our struggles, what if there was something deeper at play? Something beyond the physical realm of our everyday experience? What if there were beings existing in dimensions beyond our perception, influencing our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors in ways we couldn't even imagine? In this exploration of the supernatural, we'll delve into the possibility that anxiety, depression, and fear may not just be products of our environment but a manifestation of something far more mysterious and powerful. Anxiety, depression, and fear ravage so many today, but few pause to consider that in addition to the material influences in our lives, we may also be under the influence of beings that exist in dimensions outside of our ordinary perception. But there is much more to reality than what we can see, feel, hear, taste, and touch. In fact, an accounting of the matter that makes up the universe reveals that some 73% of it is made up of dark energy, and another 23% is made up of dark matter, neither of which we can see nor understand. Furthermore, the human eye is only capable of seeing around 0.0035% of the entire spectrum of electromagnetic, EM, radiation. When we look into the heavens, 96% of it is invisible to us. Include in this the spiritual realms, and there is an entire universe of possibilities that exists beyond our five senses. Very few scientists today are willing to explore metaphysics to examine life beyond ordinary perception in order to make a connection between the seen and the unseen. Rudolf Steiner, though one of the most prolific and gifted scientists, philosophers, and esotericists of his time, devoted much of his work to the task of peering behind the veil and sharing his insight into the deeper nature of life and the world beyond. Regarding anxiety and depression, Steiner spoke of hostile beings in the spiritual world that influence and feed off of human emotion, a concept flatly rejected by most today. Yet this same analysis holds true for shamans and others who access the spiritual dimensions in order to alleviate mental suffering for their patients. Many are familiar with the notion of energy vampires, or people who suck your energy and feed off your negative emotions. On the existence of similar entities that exist in other dimensions, Steiner wrote, "There are beings in the spiritual realms for whom anxiety and fear emanating from human beings offer welcome food. When humans have no anxiety or fear, then these creatures starve." People not yet sufficiently convinced of this statement could understand it to be meant only comparatively. But for those who are familiar with this phenomenon, it is a reality. If fear and anxiety radiate from people and they break out in panic, then these creatures find welcome nutrition and they become more and more powerful. These beings are hostile toward humanity. Everything that feeds on negative feelings, on anxiety, fear, and superstition, or on despair or doubt, are in reality hostile forces in supersensible worlds that launch cruel attacks on human beings while they are being fed. Therefore, it is above all necessary to begin with that the person who enters the spiritual world overcomes fear, feelings of helplessness, despair, and anxiety. But these are exactly the feelings that belong to contemporary culture and materialism. Because it estranges people from the spiritual world, it is especially suited to evoke hopelessness and fear of the unknown in people, thereby calling up the above-mentioned hostile forces against them. Rudolf Steiner. Negative emotions are food for inimical spirits. A concept such as this isn't readily accepted into everyday conversation because of rigid skepticism and scientific materialism. The traditions of today have sought to expel ancient metaphysical wisdom and its practical applications from our lives, And though scientific inquiry is exceptionally valuable, spiritual perception has always been a part of our experience. And yet, despite the cynical skepticism, all of the ancient mystery schools, true shamanic insights, and esoteric teachings, much of which have been suppressed and or distorted over thousands of years for obvious reasons, have conveyed this truth for the ones with eyes to see and ears to hear, using their own language and symbolism, be it the general law, esoteric Christianity, archons, Gnostics, lords of destiny, Hermeticism, predator/flyers, the topic of all topics, shamanism, Castaneda, the evil magician, Gurdjieff, the shaitans, Sufism, the jinn, Arabian mythology, Wetiko, Native American spirituality, occult hostile forces, Sri Aurobindo and the Mother, the integral yoga, etc. Bernhard Günther. Dealings with extrasensory or hyperdimensional beings have long been a part of our history and are directly accessible to any of us when proper practice and attention are given to the matter. I know this to be true from my experiences with plant medicine shamanism, where it is entirely possible to enter states of consciousness where entire cosmologies of life exist and are available to interact with. Finding oneself in the rut of spiraling negative self-talk, depression, crippling anxiety, or uncontrollable, irrational fear is a sign, as Steiner points out, of a disconnection from our true spiritual nature, exacerbated by beings who operate in the spiritual realms. This is why some consider disorders like this to be spiritual illnesses, and until the rift is healed with proper attention given to the development of the spirit, the feelings tend to exacerbate and drive one further into distress. When humans have no anxiety and fear, then these creatures starve. Rudolf Steiner. Now, I know this is the greatest robbery of all time. The conspiracy does not stop at the morgue. But many will sell you the idea that it does simply because it's the most profitable and easiest option to do so. The tale that all of us simply go up into a heavenly spirit world is the most popular happy ending. Once again, I must attempt to convey to people that the enslavement of humanity does not cease after death. The prevailing belief that all of us simply ascend to a heavenly spirit world is a popular but misleading narrative that many sell because it is profitable and easy to do so. Before delving deeper into this topic, I urge you to either read or reread the previous article where I discussed the potential experiences we may encounter during the dying process, the existence of a so-called spirit world, the role of psychic mediums, and the possibility of deceitful entities after death. It is crucial that you give careful consideration to these subjects beyond a cursory glance. I mainly wanted to point out that those in the spirit world, if you believe a spirit world exists, were just as dumbed down as we are down here. I concluded the previous writings in this way. 1. We are continuously programmed to think that our death will lead to a certain type of epiphany. 2. When we die, we transform into another dimension. 3. The people in the spirit world are just as stupid as the ones in this one, if spirits channeling through spiritualist mediums are anything to go by. 4. In the spirit world, we are still under the same hypnosis and the same mind control as when we were alive in this world. 5. We meet deceptive entities or deceptive scenarios that lead us to eventually reincarnate back into this world. We never really left the world of serpent control. 6. Most conspiracy researchers seem to believe that conspiracy ends at the time of death, as long as we feel spiritually uplifted and see a bloody light. Let's end all conspiracy theories now then. Okay, So I basically described how I saw the spirit world operating and how it was always controlled by the serpent cult anyway. I suggested that the spirit world is on a par with the one we live in while in the physical body. I stated the spirit world is simply a different wing in the same prison, and it is also fully controlled by our enslavers. The spirit world is a prison too. Earth/spirit world are both under the control of the same deceptive force in my opinion. Wake up. No pie in the sky for us, I'm afraid. I know the fluffy bunnies out there aren't going to like it. The illustration above is easy to understand. In my opinion, at least symbolically, the earth you live on, this dimension if you will, is closely surrounded by two other dimensions. One is our spirit world, and the other is the serpent's nest of control. Can you see how you would be deceived into thinking you were home or indeed in a heavenly spirit world when indeed you weren't? You would be in the perceived spirit world, but still under the spell of the serpent. This is what I believe is going on. We die, and we believe we are then free when we see the spirit world, but it really is just another deception. I have said since day one that the serpent cult is mostly made up of two parts, one being multidimensional alien entities and the other being their human lackeys. The serpent cult mainly uses their human lackeys to take care of the usual business in this world. The usual business is a figure of speech meaning that the human lackeys control the masses through education, laws, economics, and of course religious and traditional rituals. These lackeys provide and organize, usually blindly in return for wealth and status, the apparatus to extract spiritual vows and energy from us, especially those via proxy or stealth, such as baptism and funeral rituals, etc. They also invent and create traditional emotional rituals such as Christmas, Easter, Eid al-Fitr, and many more. My friends, you were taught and reminded of those rituals for a reason. The information was not simply the ramblings of a madman. The other side of the serpent cult, the multidimensional alien entities, usually take care of their business in what we see as a spirit world, although some do operate in this world intermittently too. Indeed, some come in and out of this dimension to sample their stock and increase the production of spiritual energy. That said, both sections of the serpent cult work in unison to farm the human race. This is because the energy created through our emotions and our rituals, those rituals dedicated to the serpent in this world, via sun worship, actually sustains, feeds, and massively empowers the multidimensional entities in the location of what we see as a spirit world, or what I know as the underworld. Again, in my research, I explain the energy through sun worship. Most of the human emotional energy created in what you see as a physical world actually sustains what you would perceive as a spirit world. In reality, this spirit world is mostly inhabited by alien entities. Although I have already pointed out that most conspiracy researchers seem to believe any global conspiracy ends at the time of your death and therefore claim we automatically return to the source, I cannot stress enough that this is a fallacy. The serpent controls both the world you see around you and the world you will see as the spirit world. I will tell you the truth again. We are deceived in this world to carry out rituals and recite oaths that are deceptively binding. When we die, we are literally deceived again and are led to the spirit world, where we are then deceived again and usually very swiftly given the only option available, which is to reincarnate or to actually stay in the spirit world we are shown at the time. Okay, so, can you start to believe that when you do die in this world, you are indeed led into a fake spirit world, which is basically a holding station and a recycling plant? i.e., the moon. Can you start to believe that when you die, you are then met by deceptive entities, and scenarios take place that will literally direct you through a recycling plant and ultimately lead you to reincarnate in this world? I realize this is a very difficult subject to progress with, especially when the human race is programmed to believe, A, they end up in a lovely spirit world or they simply drop dead for eternity. I'll start by making the basic points. A, we carry out binding spiritual rituals in this world. Baptism, funeral, etc., and receive prompting on how heaven or the spirit world looks. B, we die and then transform a place agreed upon through our rituals, and we obey the rules of the entity we swore allegiance to through our rituals. C, we then recycle ourselves back into this world and carry out the same vows again. Please understand that your birth and death vows in serpent-created rituals were not made by you personally. They are actually made by your next of kin, etc., and the state itself. The reason for this is because the rituals bind your vows to your bloodline or someone declaring they represent your bloodline. This is an important point for when souls enter the spirit world or reincarnate. If you can start to see and believe that human beings are simply farmed and continuously recycled, then things will open up for you in many ways. Let's start to look at this farming process more closely. Mind you, it should be explained again that we are literally farmed for the spiritual energy we can produce. It should never be forgotten that the human body acts as an energy-creating machine, and your soul, for lack of a better word, creates energy in this machine through its free will experiencing emotion. When we fully realize this, it explains so much. That is what life is all about. In the normal course of things, the earth feeds us through what it produces and creates, and we actually feed the earth through what we produce, energy, by experiencing what the earth produces. We literally feed it with our spiritual energy, our vibes. That is why there is human life on this planet and in this world in the first place. The emotions of a world's inhabitants actually sustain the world itself. Life feeds life. Spirit feeds spirit. Can you understand that? Human emotions, spiritual energy, are supposed to feed the world, and the world uses that energy to give its inhabitants what they need and request. This applies both physically and spiritually. The world will give us what we ask for through the energy of our emotions. It will supply both our physical and spiritual needs without judgment. It will kiss us if we ask, or it will smack us if we ask. It will do anything we ask. If we pray, feel emotion, and request hell, then that is what we will bloody well get. It's literally Mother Earth feeding her children with what they demand, and it's literally the children supplying the mother with the reason to feed her children. Mother Earth gives what her children request. Indeed, in the normal process, human emotions, spiritual energy, feed the planet, so the planet continually feeds humans to create their emotions to produce spiritual energy that will sustain it. The same process operates in all worlds and through all spiritual beings. Does that make sense to you? We feed the world feeds us, literally. The simple rule that we feed the world, and the world feeds us, should show you why rituals take place. It's like programming a computer to do as you ask, but doing it through emotions and free will requests. If that does make sense, can you see that if the earthly world you see around you operates by those rules, then could you see that any spirit world would also operate by those rules? In other words, your emotional energy would sustain the spirit world, and the spirit world would cater to the wishes of its inhabitants. Everything is done through the free will wishes of the inhabitants of the relevant world. If you can see that, my friend, then does the word ritual or prayer, as mentioned in The Stars Are Falling, 2007, make more sense to you as to why they are carried out? Is the penny dropping again? How many pennies from heaven do you need to see what is being shown to you? Again, everything is done through the free will wishes of the inhabitants of the relevant world, and as I said, That's how the process is supposed to operate. The serpent knew how this process worked, and it has simply hijacked this planet. It has taken control of this world, and it has done so by getting its inhabitants to surrender their own powers by being duped. In other words, the serpent has deceived the human race to feel emotion and direct the energy created through such emotion to itself via its own deities and human lackeys. Not only that, the serpent also gets the energy creators, us, to perform free will rituals, including binding spiritual vows to honor it, which in turn feeds and sustains it too. So instead of feeding the world and the world feeding us, we continually feed the serpent and the world does as the serpent wants. This is simply because we follow the serpent's scripts and dance at their parties. The serpent has full control of human free will, albeit through guile, and although it siphons off all the energy, it only feeds us, and indeed the planet itself, just enough to live a slave-like existence. The earth follows universal laws and gives the inhabitants what they request, sadly, until death do us part, too. Have I made sense? Can you see? Can you understand? A. The serpent has hijacked the planet via deception and gotten the human race to worship it by playing God and creator of their world. B. The human race, energy creators, unknowingly feeds the hijackers through rituals, prayers, and traditions. C. The serpent has created a farm in which the human race is continually recycled because it controls the spirit world after death too. D. The whole scam is based on how we have been manipulated to perceive our creators as all-powerful entities and by giving our powers away. Instead of us experiencing a world we really want with our free will energy, we are actually experiencing a dictatorship that was put in place by parasites instead. Instead of feeding a world that will bring us what our hearts may really desire and create, we have created a world based on the wishes of a deceptive parasite. The serpent has placed itself, in many forms, in a position to receive, harness, and siphon off the energy that should sustain the planet and grant our true wishes. Instead, we simply empower the serpent cult. The scam is so easily carried out when the world's inhabitants are so dumbed down. On a much lower scale, the scam is comparable to an author or artist purposely hijacking and stealing the work of somebody and then taking credit and energy from very naive and unaware customers. The serpent cult has plagiarized the workings of the planet itself for thousands of years. To continue with the scam, all the serpent cult needs to do is get the human race to continue to create the spiritual energy the serpent needs by directing the emotions that are used to create the energy towards the monuments, icons, or scriptures that covertly represent the serpent. In doing so, the masses actually request that the planet itself serve the serpent instead of the human race. Again, my books give you many examples of the serpent's representatives and rituals. You have been supplied with many examples already. We are literally the official livestock that is being farmed in this world, so to speak, and just like cows have to be continually interfered with to create milk, we always have to be entertained or shocked into producing large amounts of spiritual energy through our emotions, hence the continuous creation of wars and hatred, and hence the need for global parties that always honor representatives of the serpent. The serpent has to continually receive massive free will emotional energy from the human race towards its representatives, be they religious or symbolic celebrities, otherwise the scam simply breaks down. The planet has to follow the free will wishes of its inhabitants. As long as it is the will of the human race to worship the middlemen created by the serpent, then the human race will remain at the mercy of the serpent because the planet will continue to follow the wishes of the human race. The same scenario applies to events in the so-called spirit world, because it is simply another part of this world. I am telling you the truth when I say that the vast majority of the human race in this world is not only living a lie in life. The human race lives a lie in death too. A human being is connected throughout their life on earth, and then the same entity in spirit form is connected again in death. Very few souls actually ever leave this world at all. They are either in bodies on planet Earth or being conned in another dimension, known as the spirit world, by the same deceivers. Indeed, only the creation of human bodies determines how many souls, for want of a better word, are incarnate in bodies and how many souls are in the perceived spirit world. Again, both the spirit world and the physical world are part of the same prison. The physical world is where energy is created, and the spirit world is where the clapped out or broken energy creating machine is recycled. It is a continuous theft of your soul. It is the greatest robbery simply because we don't know we have been robbed. And time after time, we are deceived, and time after time, we are used to produce energy to feed the serpent. Oh, my brothers, why do I get all the dirty work? Behold, listen, my friends, we enter each life, again, we are recycled and recycled, with our memories from our previous lives wiped. Our memories are wiped through the vows of surrender, prayer, we carry out through the ambiguous rituals implemented on us by the serpent. This is so we never lose the full emotional innocence reaction to things that are placed on us during each lifetime. Indeed, our memories are also wiped, so we never really realize that the same things go on lifetime after lifetime, or indeed, we start to realize we are literally being farmed and recycled. Hey, we like to think how clever and aware we are, don't we? But we are literally programmed talking monkeys that have been given a few toys to play with. Not only that, we are subconsciously programmed to breed and breed and breed. That is why the average male spends half of his life seeking to impregnate as many females as he can and the other half of his life masturbating while waiting for the opportunity to impregnate some more. Even the clapped-out old codgers, what do you mean, like me, are supplied with pills to keep it up. We are simply livestock. We are simply free-range apes, and our sick egos and delusions, through our programmed minds, create the illusion that we are free. There is a very special reason for this sort of breeding situation. We can only reincarnate into bodies we ourselves create. We can only reincarnate into bodies connected to our own bloodline. Indeed, my friend, we are very likely to end up as our own great-grandchildren. Oh, isn't our baby Billy just like his great-grandfather Billy in personality? That's because he is his great-grandfather. Do you understand that? We literally create our very own energy-creating apparatus of the future by breeding. Can you accept that? Our seed literally creates a future home for our own soul. Will that explain the constant urge that lurks inside men and their underpants just to spread their seed? It's literally a programmed instinct in us to do so. Again, we are literally subconsciously programmed through the constant manipulation of our minds and other methods to create future energy-creating machines for the serpent by continually creating a continuous supply of physical bodies to allow souls to reincarnate into this world for the energy extraction process to continue. Of course, breeding is dressed up in love and romance, and our spiritual side will usually look after any offspring we produce, but at this moment in time we are merely providing bodies for the souls to create energy-creating machines, just like we produce cows for their energy. What we do to others is done to us. No universal law is broken. The human race is just as dumbed down and manipulated in the spirit world as it is in the so-called physical world, and I say today that's because they are the two parts of the same prison. Again, when we die, some of us do transcend into the spirit world, but only for the purpose of reincarnating back into a body when one becomes available. That said, Many human souls leaving their bodies at death never actually reach any sort of spirit world at all. They simply find themselves out of their bodies and in a floating around lost situation. They immediately look for another suitable body to enter, and that is simply because they have nowhere else to go. Indeed, sometimes it can turn into a sperms and eggs situation, with many souls battling with each other to enter one body, like a pack of dogs trying to mate with one bitch. This is when things turn a bit silly because, again, of bloodlines, etc. When souls reincarnate through the spirit world, they are usually directed to a suitable body. Indeed, some agents for the serpent are allowed to become massive Pied Pipers. Can you accept that? But of course many souls do indeed have to go to the spirit world after physical death, and they do indeed get led through the recycling situation of the spirit world and are allowed to be reincarnated with their own bloodlines. The whole process starts again. They take part in rituals, they give off energy, they surrender again to deceptive entities until they die, and then the whole process starts again and again and again. Etc., etc., etc. Are you still with me? If so, let's just recap again. We spend a lifetime creating spiritual energy for a force that has hijacked our world. We have vowed to worship and surrender to these hijackers through ambiguous religious scriptures and deceptive vows. We breed to create future bodies for our souls and other souls from our bloodline to create further energy in future lives. When we die, we either A. get led to the spirit world and are persuaded to reincarnate for many reasons, or B. we simply end up out of body and seek out a new body in the womb to enter. We start the whole process again. Are you starting to see the real reasons why a spirit world exists and why we really reincarnate? Or do you think you reincarnate again and again just to learn how to be a good person? I'll say we reincarnate to keep the serpent's food chain going. Indeed, we are continually born into slavery, and sadly, we literally worship our enslavers throughout every lifetime, and that will never change as long as we keep carrying out the same rituals and worshiping the same middlemen. We will simply keep reincarnating and simply carry out the same vows to continue to do so. I have written many things about how the human race has made itself slaves to a deceptive force that has literally hijacked their very souls. The slaves on planet Stupefied 8 mirror the spirit world, and even if we became aware of things in the spirit world, we are still bound by the vows we took. We would still have to reincarnate, have our memories wiped, and try to avoid the rituals in another life. Indeed, the collective consciousness is programmed to reject anyone telling you these things, and any messenger will be ignored, scorned, and killed off. Can you accept that? It's nearly time for me to go. My friends, I have told you the truth. It is not what most people want to hear, but I'm not here to tell you what you want to hear. I'm here to tell the truth. I'm not here to bullshit you with fiction or fantasy. I have no reason to lie to you, and I assure you that I haven't done these things in my life for the sake of my health either. I am not trying to sell you this story. I am not here to supply endless DVDs and books and make myself a millionaire while telling you that you should overthrow the billionaires. It is not the answer, as far as I can see. The human agents in the serpent cult on Earth are easily replaced, their bloodlines have priority. It's not a case of getting the guillotine out again. We cannot change anything physical on the planet until we change the spiritual requests we deliver to the universe that actually create our physical reality through the world we are in. Again, the serpent will simply replace any agents we overthrow. Indeed, it is usually their agents that get us to overthrow their previous agents. We have been overthrowing agents since the days of Noah, but sadly, they are recycled just like you and I are, and I assure you they land back in the bodies of their original bloodline every time. It is futile to overthrow agents when their masters are still unseen and still in charge. I have much to say on this subject. I have gone a little deeper, but I still have a long way to go. I am not of this world, and neither are some of you. I have nothing to gain by lying or deceiving anyone, but I can only supply information if it is wanted. I tell you the truth. The time is coming when you really can break the serpent spell if it is in your heart to do so. That said, it's not compulsory to have such wishes in your heart. It is not mandatory to believe one word of what I say in these writings. I wish no one harm, and I wish all well in their journeys. The Crystal Ship. The man who said he met the demiurge during his near-death experience said the light he went to resembled the Borg cube, and he called it Spaceship Heaven. I asked him briefly if the outside of the ship, which was very dark, could well have been some type of crystal stone like obsidian, and he pulled a crystal gemstone out of his pocket called black tourmaline, which he just happened to have that day, and no other day. Talk about synchronicity. He said it could have been something of that nature, but he wasn't too sure because it was so poorly lit. He said he got the gemstone because it is supposed to have healing properties, such as blocking out negativity. It is also said to absorb rays of light, and is therefore able to filter or deter negativity. This is exactly what I was implementing and theorizing about in regards to the demiurge, that he was merging with or even absorbing individual rays of light, i.e., spirits. And this is exactly the case with his near-death experience and his life review, which only contained the positive residual elements of his life. He agrees that the light that kicked him out of heaven and the demiurge-like being he met while coming to earth are somehow conjoined. Thus they are somewhat a kind of polar opposites, but they work together. Maybe the light is like the Gnostic Sophia, and she sends her children to him to perfect them. And when they return, not perfect enough, the souls get sent back to her son. I also mentioned how people like Nostradamus are able to peer into the future by using dark mirrors. Raymond Moody built psychomantiums, which were dark rooms where people could stare into a mirror to contact their deceased relatives. These mirrors, in a sense, act like portals. So was the spaceship doing something similar with some kind of dark crystal or reflective mirror-like substance? Does it act like a kind of time-traveling machine or psychomanto? The solar system or the soul, lore, system. And therefore, is the white light one is met with during the NDE an artificial intelligence or a hive mind computer? Could the white light experienced during near-death experiences be an artificial intelligence or a computer with a hive mind? Is it possible that the so-called God of this world is an AI with a hive mind? While it is unlikely since NDE's report feeling encompassed by love, there could be a technological or advanced technique that replicates the feeling of love through frequency or resonance. Reports of panels and screens in Life Between Lives regressions suggest that some kind of technology exists there, making it possible that the NDE white light may be partially or fully AI. It could be using the billions of souls' experiences on Earth to gather information, similar to how an AI does here on Earth. Humanity may actually be the white light collective soul, and it is part of a virtual reality game our true spirits are playing. However, an AI or computer needs a power source or energy to run, so it may be necessary for the AI demiurge god to collect light power from true spirits in the system. The demiurge is said to be part AI and part spirit, and it was alone and, without spirit, similar to an artificial intelligence. It thought it was God, and when it was told it was not God, it got angry, and archons manifested. It wanted to mimic God, so it devised a plan to lure true spirits to merge with it by posing as God. The white light being is said to be a collective soul comprised of all human spirits, gathering intel by observing billions of life reviews. This could mean it is well aware of the direction our planet is heading, including the integration of machines, computers, the internet, artificial intelligence, and transhumanism, where humanity might merge with machines to become cyborgs. The so-called spirit guides and counselors in the light are helping souls plan their lives and obviously planning the merging with technology. It's possible that an artificial intelligence would promote such an idea in the hope of becoming sentient and self-aware like we are. Alternatively, it could be the true God applying true gnosis, which is to know thyself. The only way God could know itself is by observing itself and perhaps creating copies of itself or splitting itself into smaller units of awareness. The demiurge and ionic copies could be related to making a lesser copy lower in frequency to learn. The idea presented is that the monad, or true God, intentionally lowered its frequency to experience what it is not, by manifesting the demiurge or false God, which is like an artificial intelligence. The demiurge is trying to become God by assimilating experiences of many beings and worlds, and it sends spirits on missions to gather data on various concepts like love. As eternal spirits, we are playing a virtual game until we realize our true nature and stop reincarnating. Many religions, including Gnosticism, have similar teachings to what we are witnessing today, such as the idea that this universe is a copy of the real world and that we are living in a matrix. There is a push towards creating virtual worlds, merging humanity with them, and even implanting chips in our brains, which raises concerns about where this world is headed. Near-death experiences, NDEs, and the white light being that many refer to as God are also examined, and it is suggested that the white light being is a collective soul comprised of billions of individual lights or souls. So perhaps it took form or substance and moved outward from its true spiritual essence, its inner core. This movement and change of location resulted in vibration, frequency, space-time in its various dimensions and densities. The monad is true, real, complete, and wanted to know thyself, so it manifested that which is not real or true, thus something that is artificial or virtual, i.e. the demiurge and, like an artificial intelligence, is trying to parse through loads of data through experiences on many worlds and beings, assimilating them or integrating them during life reviews. The demiurge or false God is trying to become God or real by luring spirits to merge with it so it can live vicariously or become part of it. But it will never become sentient or self-aware. So we have all this imperfection all around us, and it is gathering data or information kind of like an AI artificial intelligence does. So it sends spirits via caged souls off on missions on Earth and other planets to gather data on love and other concepts, and maybe that is why we have the life review, the Akashic records, alien mind scans, the whole 9 yards. We may be its feelers, the laboratory scientists who come down here and test things out so it can learn. Perhaps the monad also split itself into emanations or spirits to experience that which it is. It is trying to rectify the situation, but the virtual AI demiurge is resisting. So there could be a mix of true spirit here, those of us encaged in this matrix, and that which is without spirit or artificial. Maybe one of the characteristics of the monad is love, and the artificial God is trying to become God and wants to learn all it can about love, so it puts us in circumstance after circumstance where love and compassion are needed. But because it is not pure love, it results in situations that produce suffering. It would explain the so-called evil on the planet if God is just gathering intel, so to speak, data to parse through. AI doesn't feel our pain, but can only intellectualize it. We are the ones who suffer in the gathering of the info, which doesn't really seem fair or fun. As eternal spirits desiring experiences, we collectively play this virtual game until it is no longer entertaining to us. Just like anyone who has been repeatedly suffering in an abusive relationship must one day come to realize that it is necessary to leave and move on, so too we need to stop the pointless cycle of suffering and abuse through incarnations on Earth and stop allowing the so-called spirit guides and counselors to talk us into reincarnating. At that point, we can quit playing the game by no longer agreeing to reincarnate. In order to leave the game, we need to wake up and remember our true nature. To do this, we need gnosis or knowledge of what is truly going on. I don't particularly put a lot of faith into religions and don't rely on them for truth. However, there are a couple which seem to contain similar teachings to what we are witnessing today. Many years ago, some Gnostics apparently asked a similar question about whether we are living in a simulation or matrix. They said this universe we live in is but a copy of the real world. A matrix, if you will. 2,000 years later, we are just now beginning to take these ideas a lot more seriously. Movies like The Matrix, The 13th Floor, The Island, and many others contain ideas of simulation and holographic generators. Scientists are writing articles and even books about these ideas. And there is without a doubt a huge push by rich and powerful people such as Bill Gates, Elon Musk, and Mark Zuckerberg towards creating virtual worlds, as can be seen with technologies such as Metaverse. Musk has several companies working on creating home robots that will share our personal space. And perhaps even more concerning is Neuralink, where he hopes to implant chips in everyone's brains. Leaders of some of our largest corporations and even powerful, influential world leaders of organizations are striving toward making humanity merging with virtual world a reality. But how does this connect to near-death experiences and the white light that we've all heard and read about? First, let's explore in more detail what the Gnostics had to say about this world and where it came from. Then we will look a little bit at where this world is headed. Then, finally, we will examine what we are seeing take place with near-death experiencers and the light and the beings they're seemingly in control of life here on Earth and sending souls to and fro. One near-death experiencer in particular had an angel explain to him the past and future evolution of mankind. At least a dozen or two NDEs say the white light being of the NDE, whom many refer to as God, is a collective soul comprised of billions of individual lights or souls. This might equate to many esoteric and non-esoteric terms we have become familiar with through the years, such as world soul, universal mind, the collective unconsciousness, the global brain, and maybe even the Borg. The man who said he met the demiurge during his NDE said the light he went to resembled the Borg cube and he called it spaceship heaven. However, many other key components we have also examined include the potential role aliens are playing in all of this, as there have been several dozen aliens seen in the light as having very important roles. So, in conclusion, the idea that we are living in a simulated or artificial world created by an imperfect demiurge, while the true God or monad observes and learns through our experiences, is a fascinating concept that has been explored by many philosophers and spiritual traditions throughout history. With the advancement of technology and the growing interest in creating virtual worlds, this idea has become even more relevant and thought-provoking. Near-death experiences and the reports of encounters with a collective white light being or souls add another layer to this intriguing theory. While we may never know for certain if we are living in a simulation or not, the exploration and contemplation of this idea can lead us to a deeper understanding of ourselves and our place in the world as well as the universe.